Richard L. Green is my forensic musicologist. His advice has enlightened and protected me on countless projects over the last 30 years. He's also saved Disney, Warner Brothers, Fox, Universal Music Group, and the major record labels from potentially spending billions of dollars in legal claims. The following video segment is a masterclass in what you need to know about the business of creating music before it's too late.
So this is going to be true for films, television, records, and TV commercials. And at a high level, pretty much every project that I've ever worked on since about the middle 80s, I would say, has required a musicologist. Now, if you're just writing songs in your basement, you haven't gotten there yet. But as soon as you're successful and your songs are getting out there, I think, as Richard mentioned, it's going to be about risk management. And risk management means what? Well, you get sued.
You use the material that you can defend the use of it. If you can't defend the use of it, you probably don't use it. It's sort of the opposite of the orphan works of using everything and then figuring it out later. Managed risk, you're only going to use the things that you can clear, is one of the terms they use. Clearance is one of the terms they use for that they've managed to have all of the rights on something.
Well, we want to go all the way back to we want original works, right? Because that's what you're talking about. So I think one of the questions that's going to come up is what makes for an original work and what makes for a work that is risky, right? Because it's managing risks. And sometimes works go out that are a little bit risky, and then the risk is management in different ways. Like there could be samples, we end up paying, the production company or somebody has to pay for the samples, or we'll take the sample out, or we'll change the notes a little bit. All these kinds of ways are potential ways to manage risk.
The biggest way of managing risk is to let somebody else take it for you. It's called indemnification. And so some people rely on, they signed on the bottom line that this really is original and belongs to them. But in the end of the day, if the claim comes in, can that person pay the claim? Yeah. And they probably can't most of the time, which means that the studio or the distributor, whoever it is going to have to eat it. They're going to be the deep pockets that has to pay whatever it is. And that's because they're the deep pockets, that's why they worry.
So let me give you an example of indemnification. A quick example would be the director and the studio are sold on this temp music, which is music that they put in to sort of help edit the film and for the test screenings and that sort of thing. And they're just insistent that I get really close to that music. And it's going to be so close to that music, I'm just going to say, I can't do this unless you indemnify me. And that simply means that they're going to take the risk. And because I don't want to get sued.
Right. But you still don't want that.
No, I definitely don't want that because
you don't want that because if when the claim comes in, and this goes to another issue of it, if the claim comes in, it's going to go to the insurance company perhaps. And the errors and omissions insurance company keeps a database of everybody that they had to pay out on it. And your name is going to be in there. That it's modern blacklist is not Louis Mayer calling up David Selznick and saying, don't hire the bum. It's the insurance database. And if they look and say, look, this guy, we've paid 4 claims in the last year. You might not be able to get any jobs anymore.
Don't hire this person.
Or don't hire this person because it's too risky, or we're refusing to insure the production if he's working there is how
so
it
that's
come
risk
down.
Management.
Or if you want to use this guy, your insurance, and they'll name some rate 4 times higher, maybe, I don't know. But it's going to be higher if they accept it, if you're in there in a major way. So you don't even want it to go south, even if they're indemnifying you. Because they're not indemnifying what's going to happen to you. The number one requirement of this job is being 100% honest 100% of the time. Because if I don't tell them the bad stuff, if I just tell them the stuff they want to hear, then I'm not doing them any favors. Because they can't make a realistic risk assessment without hearing it all. They've got to hear it all in order to do it.
Okay, so what does a person do?
That's one of the solutions.
Okay, hold on to that though. What do I do? I just wrote this song and it's awesome and the record company loves it and the artist wants to put it on the record, but I don't know, how do I get permission?
Well, you call the publishers of the various people, and they will.
I do. How do I don't know any publishers. I'm a songwriter. I'm 18 years old.
But you know whose record you took it off, and you can see the publisher listed on the album jacket.
And then, what form do I have them fill out? Where this information?
They'll give you the form, and they'll be so glad. People say, "Oh, they'll be so upset." No, you tell them, "Look, I'd like to use a sample. It's all been worked out legally. They've got contracts for the use of that stuff. They'll send you one. You agree to the terms, and then you're legal with it, and you can have the sample in there. They're going to be like you say, they're going to be a co-owner of that."
But we need, like, all of you, we need to be thinking about this, right? When we put a sample in a song.
Right.
We have to be thinking, I love this sample. I'm being really creative with it today. But now that means I have to pick up the phone or send an email or do something, right? It's requiring an action.
Right.
Otherwise,
or if you don't take the action, then it's unreleasable. I mean, you can play in the YouTube sandbox with it, or you can play it in live performance, where there's blanket licenses and stuff. But when it comes to using it in the markets where you could really make some money, it's not going to go there.
And does the artist still get to own some of it? Like, let's say
you probably get to own some of it.
You can cut a deal.
Is
that how it works?
Well, I don't know how good a deal you're going to get.
How bad of a deal am I going to get?
Nothing.
Is it really? Is that the deal?
You want to own a share? You want to sample the Rolling Stones? I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure if, depending on who it is. Let's put it this way. If it's the hottest thing on the market right now, they aren't going to want somebody else out there really in competition with them right now. If it's the hottest thing out there, they're not going to want that. They're going to want, if you're going to compete with them at the same time that they're at their maximum, they're going to want to own all of you, or as much of you as they can get.
Well, a lot of us want to know because, like, if you're out there and you have an Instagram account or TikTok account or YouTube channel, let's say, and you want to just put some music in there, there's certain music that you're allowed to use, on those platforms. But also, let's say you want to just take something and put it in. There are rules for fair use that
there's some generalized rules,
right? If it's like you're trying to like illustrate something that's in pop culture,
that's criticism, and criticism is allowable. That's where the transformative concept comes into. Transformative is not a factor itself in fair use. Transformative is, does what you have to say does it amount to criticism? You're only allowed, this is another generalization, you're only allowed enough to make your point. Once you've made your point, you have to get off of it.
Stop playing the music, in other words, get off.
Yeah, you're going to do the whole thing, and you're just going to sit there and make, cat calls in the background about it. That's probably not a fair use, because you're using, it's the amount taken as part of it. And
but there's no set amount of seconds that's okay.
No, there's not. No, but I mean, you imagine the whole purpose of it was which they didn't envision, but the whole purpose was like you write a research paper and you want to say that so-and-so said this in his paper, you're allowed to give a little thing as long as you give attribution of authorship. You give attribution, it came from this source, this is what he had to say, and you put a little thing so as your example in your research paper. That's allowable.
So if you do this,
that's the real pure criticism.
If we follow these rules, technically we shouldn't get demonetized on your TikTok or Instagram or YouTube video.
Well, if you just use 5 or 10 second clips of something, and you're making and using it as an examples, you're basically the video version of a research paper. But then you get into the gray area because, like you said, you could be demonetized. Or you could go to court and you could lose. Even though everything is right, you can lose depending on who the judge draws, what he considers the most important, or she considers the most important factors. Oh, the most important factor was the fact that you did this. And that's...
Yeah, it all just keeps coming back to just be as original as often as you can.
Right,
and then you can make more money And it's not just to make the money, it's just so that you can survive, because the more you're original and the more you can, then that'll help you develop your voice, the more you're original.
Right, the more you write, the more you're going to learn who you are as an artist.